Good evening, everyone. I'm Channing. Today I'm sitting with Kristina Ramsey, the Director of Economic Development in Buena Vista. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
It's wonderful to have you in the studio. There's a lot of exciting things happening in Buena Vista right now between the town square and pool renovations. Test scores are rising at the schools. But I would like to know about what struggles you guys have faced in the past. What are some of the issues in Buena Vista?
Yeah, so I'm a Buena Vista native. I've been in the city almost my whole life, aside from a little bit of time, went away for college, and been working for the city for the last 5 years. And within that time, when I started, our vacancy rate in downtown was very high. Most of the storefronts were vacant. They were falling apart. Folks weren't really visiting town. Residents weren't really hanging out in Buena Vista. But over the last few years, we've been able to change that. So we've dropped the vacancy rate by more than half. So a lot of those storefronts have filled. Significant investment and improvements for those storefronts and just in downtown in general. So one of the bigger challenges I think we're facing now is getting the local community back in the habit of visiting downtown, visiting stores in the area, rather than going out of town for those things, and getting folks, showing people that Buena Vista is a place that they should come and visit. So getting WNL students or folks from Lexington to come over more regularly and just showcasing the city as a place where folks can come shop and dine, and we like to say it's a place where folks can come place because it's more of the outdoor recreation hub being right off the parkway. So
absolutely.
Just trying to build it back up and revitalize there, but we've made a lot of progress over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Still a long way to go.
I was in downtown Buena Vista yesterday for a story, and it was happening. There were a lot of people walking around. Yeah, it was great to see.
It wasn't like that 5 years ago, and I think every 6 months or so, if you come in, it looks a little different. There's something new happening, something more exciting.
Yeah.
So,
what is Buena Vista doing specifically to retain stores and to keep the downtown alive?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, we received a grant from the state to do some streetscape improvements, add some new light poles, wayfinding signage, replace some sidewalks, and then do some facade improvements, so to help those property owners fix their properties up, which has been a huge help. We're still working on that. And then within the last few years, we started a Main Street program. So we've always had one. We've been working with the state, but we've not had an official nonprofit where there's an active board. And 2 years ago, City Council funded a part-time director for that. So they're fully their own nonprofit. Brooke Dalton is the executive director, and she's been doing an incredible job hosting more regular events, providing that more one-on-one support that we were not able to provide in our office because we're so busy working on other things. So giving more direct attention to the businesses, but also working to create more incentives and more opportunities so they can have the support that they need.
Absolutely. Well, I saw in front of the town square the billboard that has the announcements, and it's Small Business Saturday on November 30th.
Yes.
What does that mean? What's that event like?
Yeah, so every year American Express puts it on, but it's a way to encourage folks to shop local for their Christmas shopping. So this year, Main Street Buena Vista is doing a little event for the community to come out and shop local, and if they shop at one of the participating retailers from, I think, November 15th to sometime in December, then they can be entered to a raffle, the Jolly Jackpot, and receive a prize. And you could enter, I think, every day.
Wow.
So really fun opportunity.
Maybe I'll enter.
Yeah.
I need to enter.
There's some fun new stores that folks should check out.
Yeah, that's great. Another thing that's happening in downtown that will probably improve businesses is the town square. So will you talk to me a little bit about what that project has looked like, where it's at now?
Yes, that's been a really exciting one. In late 2020, when Ed Walker decided to sell his properties, that one had already started to become like a space where we're holding events. It's right in the center of downtown at the connector point at 21st Street, so really the heart. So the city decided, with work of a community group, to pursue that, to purchase it, and make it a public gathering space. It's a natural location for it. So from there, we jumped right into applying for grants. So Virginia Outdoors Foundation funded the purchase. We did a community-led design, so the community got to have a lot of input in what the design would look like, creating a space where we can have concerts, different types of events, the farmers market. And just this year, we've been able to partner with our local timber framers. In April, we built the large market pavilion, so that is fully complete. And just this October, very last minute, we were able to do the stage structure. So the space is pretty much done. We need to put the roof on the stage structure. It'll have public bathrooms. And then from there, we'll just need to do like a seating plaza, some public art. But we're planning to have a dedication ceremony in April-May timeframe. But right now, we have a naming opportunity available. So the square Town Square was always meant to be a temporary name, just something for our team to call it. So
Right.
like we had something to reference it by, but it was never meant to be permanent. So we're looking for something that really showcases the vision of the city, what the space really is, and we want the community's help. So it's out there for anyone in the community to nominate a name. You just fill out the form. And then in December, our team will nail it down to about 3 finalists, and early next year we'll launch those 3 finalists, and you can vote, small donation to vote, and whichever one has the highest amount of donations wins, and we'll unveil that in the ceremony in April or May.
Did you submit a name?
I submitted one, but we've got some really great options. I really like the junction or the crossing.
Love.
Some maybe saying downtown crossing or something, but
Yeah,
it
that
really
makes
is
a lot
that
of sense.
centerpiece. 21st Street is kind of where the Riverwalk connects, and it theoretically would connect to the Blue Ridge Parkway at some point through a trail plan that we have, so it just feels natural.
I think that the project has been really wonderful at getting the whole entire community involved. And the people that I've talked to about the project were saying that when the timber framers came in, when they put up the pavilion, the entire community was there.
Yes, that was the goal the whole time. Like I said, I grew up in BV, and we haven't had as many projects we can be involved in many years. So when the timber framers came in the spring, there was 170 or so volunteers from across the country, some from even Canada, as the timber framers. But our local folks came out to watch. They band together to help supply meals for the volunteers during that time. So I would say we probably had 300 or so different volunteers if you count the builders and agencies in the community, and that doesn't include the different donations. We've had our Flush Fund to fund the bathroom. Folks could paint pegs to be a part of the pavilion structure and the stage structure. So it's been, I think, really empowering and watching the community come together to build something that's going to be there for generations.
What do you think it'll do for the community once it's completely built?
Yeah, it's already making a huge difference. There's been a lot going on, but there are a lot of things that we've talked about that haven't really created that visible change yet. And just this year with that visible, like really in your face, vibrant space has gotten more folks excited, more businesses coming our way, more folks coming back into downtown. And that's kind of the goal with having the square there, is bringing some concerts there, some regular events, food truck days, things that folks are already doing maybe in Lexington or over at Glenmurray Park for events and festivals, and kind of tying it in together so we can bring some of those local folks from the park over, or folks from Lexington, Rockbridge County into town. So just creating more foot traffic, more vibrancy, more just general activity.
Absolutely.
There.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. Will you talk to me a little bit about the Bontex property and what the latest updates are for that project?
Yeah, this one's been a passion project for me for many years. So Bontex was a former industrial site, so we just reference it by the manufacturing name. It was originally Columbia Paper Mill, so it dates back to circa 1860 or so when the canal was built. The building was actually built on top of it, and it was a textile industry. So paper mill, and then most recently Bontex does shoe fibers. So the fibers that make the soles within your shoes is what Bontex company did.
Yeah.
They actually closed in 2010, and the building has been sitting vacant for many years. So if you've been into town, it's that really dilapidated, ugly building with the smokestack right at the entry to the city.
I've seen it.
It's been falling apart for a while. It's been a tricky one for us. The owner's based in Taiwan, and just making a connection with them, especially with the pandemic, was the challenge.
Yeah.
But just in the last couple of years, we've been able to make contact and kind of start pursuing what it would look like to redevelop the site. And just this year alone, we've secured a $200,000 technical assistance grant from the Department of Environmental Quality, or DEQ, to do environmental assessments, reuse planning, redevelopment planning, market analysis, and trail planning, because part of the plan, the Chessie Trail stops right at the edge of the site. The plan is to connect the Chessie Trail through the Bontex site on the old rail line onto Buena Vista's Riverwalk. And theoretically, that will then connect to the Blue Ridge Parkway, National Forest, and create that really connector point. So really exciting progress for the site, and just early conversations that we've had with the team doing the analysis, the studies. Market is showing a need for retail, for restaurants, potentially a brewery, maybe some art galleries or something.
Yeah, wonderful.
Outdoor recreation outfitters, because that is, I think, part of Buena Vista's identity, and the property's right there on the river, so it only makes sense. And then potentially some lodging or housing of some sort. So making it a vibrant, multi-use space that the community can be a part of, but also just multiple reasons to visit it, and kind of claiming that history, because it's
Absolutely.
one of the oldest manufacturers or industrial facilities left in the city.
Yeah, it's iconic. It's the first thing that you see when you drive up.
That smokestack.
Exactly, and it reflects onto the river. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think the timeline looks like for that?
Yeah, so this initial assessment phase will go wrap up in January, February 2025. So that will be done pretty soon. Then from there, we'll move into the remediation side of things. So there are already chemicals in there that we know need to be removed ASAP. It used to be a paper mill, so there are wastewater treatment facilities that will need to be removed. So that we'll start applying for grants for that next year based on what the study tells us is needed. So it'll probably be several years before we start seeing any real development coming out or anything really visible there.
But it's underway. It's
happening.
It is.
It's huge progress. It sounds small, but it is huge progress.
Wonderful.
These assessments, this planning work is what's needed to help us attract the developer. And once we have those, we can start having conversations about partnerships with different developers who specialize in historic preservation and adaptive reuse projects.
Wonderful. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in BV.
Yes.
What do you think needs to happen in the next 10 years? What are your main priorities?
Yeah, so we focused a lot on downtown over the last few years, being the heart of the city, but now it's time, I think, to focus a little bit more on the outside areas. We've started doing that over the last year, but bringing on down to Bontex, but beyond just the property, the residential areas there, and kind of in those gateway areas. In the next year, we'll be relocating the Buena Vista Visitor Center from its current location to a location closer to town. We're expanding our facade improvement program to include some of those larger areas, whereas before it just focused in the downtown area. Really putting a lot of attention towards housing and childcare. Those are two serious need areas, not just in Buena Vista, Rockbridge County, but nationally.
Right.
We have a low housing stock, and we need to build more, and kind of more on the affordable side for the middle income folks. Not necessarily Section 8 low income, but something that your typical manufacturing worker can afford. So single family housing and multifamily. And then there's no childcare facilities within Buena Vista and very limited childcare in Rockbridge County, so focusing on that. It's a need for our workforce. It's a need for keeping students here to work in our businesses. So two key areas, I think, there. And then just continuing growth, filling vacant storefronts, remediating dilapidated buildings, and going from there.
Wonderful. Well, I'm really excited about what's happening in Buena Vista. I think that it has been a wonderful year to cover and to write about all the great things that are going on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been very exciting. We've come a long way. There's a long way left to go.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for talking to me, and thank you for joining us. This is Channing Shilling with the Rockbridge Report.